It's all about cash flow, baby. You think just because there's a farm behind my property that it ain't making money? Always bet on cash flow. Hey everybody, Trevor B. West here. Today I'm going to be walking you through my very first rental deal ever. It's a multifamily property with 3 units located just north of Fayetteville, North Carolina. I'm going to talk you through how I found my niche, how I analyzed my market, how I ran the numbers, acquired the deal, and we'll wrap it up with lessons learned and best practices. Let's get started. Finding my niche. And what it really boils down to is education. And I got my start the same way many others before me did, and I'm sure many after. And that's by reading a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. But that wasn't the only one. How to invest in real estate with little to no money down. Long distance real estate investing. But what set the foundation for me was joining a local community college's real estate investing course. It was a 6-week course at my own pace, but instead of being a squirrel on the internet reading tons of different articles, it walked you through wholesaling, it walked you through real estate owned, it walked you through foreclosures, flipping, buy and hold. And what that did for me, by educating myself on each area, it allowed me to explore each and every one of those to find out which one I really liked. Wholesaling, flipping, or buy and hold. The first 2 didn't fit my goals, didn't fit my long-term strategy, but buy and hold was right where I was at. And by being a military member, I had the option to use my VA loan. And those of you who are listening right now, if that's an option for you, it is an incredibly powerful tool, and I implore you to use it. But with the VA loan, it allowed me to buy up to 4 units. And of course, I wanted to maximize that opportunity that was given. And so that's how I chose my niche. Buy and hold because it was a long-term strategy, and multifamily because that was going to be the most bang for my buck. Analyzing my market. This was a really critical moment for me because at the time in 2019, I was living just outside Raleigh, North Carolina, one of the fastest growing cities in the United States at the time. And of course, I was bound and determined to buy my first rental property there. So I enlisted the help of an investor-savvy real estate agent and a contractor who was well-versed in rehab projects. And after running the numbers on over 150 deals and walking over 30 of them with that team in place, I quickly realized that Raleigh, North Carolina was not the place for me to start because the price point was too high and the cost that I was going to incur, I was not in a financial position to either break even or even lose money. So I had to set my sights elsewhere, and that landed me right here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, where the price point is much lower to get into a deal, but the rental comparisons are not that different. So I decided to leverage that metric when looking at a different market to maximize the amount of cash flow that I was going to get from my rental properties. Because overall, for me, it's all about cash flow versus appreciation. Because I can bet on cash flow. I can run the numbers on cash flow. I cannot run the numbers on what the economy is going to do 5, 10, 15 years from now. Running the numbers. I'm going to give you really quick down and dirty on how I run the numbers specifically, and then we'll dive into this property. So before you even start running the numbers on anything, you need to first identify how you're going to be able to purchase the property. And of course, if the property needs it, how you're going to fund the rehab. There's a number of different ways to get this done. But for the sake of this conversation, let's just talk about banks. And by banks, I mean mainstream lending institutions. A lot of their products we're already familiar with, like a conventional loan, which is going to require a 20 to 25% down. An FHA loan, which requires a 3.5% down, a government-backed loan. The VA loan and the USDA loan, both that have specific requirements, but offer a 0% down. So from here, once you go to the bank, they're going to tell you how much they're willing to lend you based on your income. So you already have a max purchase price identified for you. Then from there, let's identify a property. So figure out how much that property is most likely going to bring in rental income wise, or your gross rental income, which means when that tenant hands you the check on the first of the month, that's what you're receiving. So find out your purchase price, find out your gross rental income, or your 1-2 punch. Right from here, a lot of people utilize the 1% rule. Broken down really simply, if your all-in cost, meaning your purchase price, your renovation cost, and your closing cost all equates to $100,000, your gross rental income should be 1% of that. In this case, $1,000. So once you get enough experience analyzing deals, you can usually stop here. If it doesn't meet the 1% rule, or it does, you can decide if you're going to continue or if you're going to stop. But for beginners, I definitely recommend completing this process all the way through just to get a number of reps in. Get used to identifying markets, neighborhoods, and streets. Finding your gross rental income can be done a number of different ways, but I recommend using your real estate agent or using a website called Rentometer. Not extremely accurate, but it's going to get you in the ballpark to where you can run numbers. So with your gross rental income, next step is identifying what your expenses are. And in general, the expenses that you're going to see is vacancy when somebody moves out, repairs and maintenance, the sink goes out, mowing the lawn, capital expenses, the HVAC blows up, or a lava pit swallows up the property, or a tree falls on it. And then lastly, property management. If you intend on self-managing, depending on how far and how much you want to scale, you might not always be managing that property yourself. So factor this in anyway, see what the numbers look like. So once you've minused your expenses from your gross rental income, what you're left with is your NOI, or your net operating income. Once you've identified what your net operating income is, the final step is figuring your mortgage statement, or your PITI, your PITI, which stands for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. For principal and interest, this one's pretty easy. I download Carl's Mortgage Calculator. It's an app that you can put right on your phone. You put your purchase price, you put what the bank is charging you in interest, and that's going to give you your principal and interest right off the bat. Next step is your taxes. So wherever the property is located, go to that county's tax assessor's website. From there, you'll be able to see all the publicly available information on the current owner or the previous owner, what they paid in taxes that year and all the years preceding, which is going to give you a fairly accurate number for what you can run in your numbers. And then lastly, insurance. I definitely recommend reaching out to a couple insurance agents in your local market. Ask them some questions, see what they're seeing, and then you can start to utilize those numbers in your own analysis. So from here, you have all the things that you need. You have your gross rental income minus your expenses, minus your PITI or your mortgage statement, and the number that's left at the bottom from there is your cash flow. That's money that goes straight into your pocket. Happy day. For this specific property, it's been sitting on the market again for about 500 days at a listing price of $225,000. With a gross rental income of $2,050, this was below the 1% rule and was not going to work for my criteria. But after a number of different negotiations with the seller, we agreed to a price of $188,000. But that's not the final payment that I paid to the bank. So for those of you who intend to use the VA loan, make sure that you're familiar with what's called a VA funding fee. Since the VA offers a 0% down lending product, they still want to get paid. So there's a fee that goes right on top of your mortgage. So my all-in-all payment was $192,000 with a gross rental income of $2,050. This works out really nicely. Throughout the closing process, I got a really good idea of what the bank was going to be charging me. So that number was $1,170. I take my gross rental income, I subtract $1,170, and for me, I just put all that money away until I reach a reserves. And for each door, I like to keep $3,000 as a safety net in case anything happens to the property. That's what those percentages are for your vacancy, repair and maintenance, CapEx, and your property manager. All that money goes aside. That way I can build up my reserves a little faster and get my cash flow a lot quicker. So once I hit my reserves for all 3 doors, my cash flow was $880. And of course, as tenants move out, you upgrade the units and you charge more for them, which increases your cash flow ultimately, and you've already met your reserves. So everything else just going straight in your pocket. Lessons learned and best practices. I would say my biggest lesson learned from this investment was always, always, always vet your property manager. Make sure that they are capable, do not have a pre-existing relationship with any of the tenants, as well as have a history of successful property management. You want to make sure that the individual or team of individuals managing your asset are going to properly execute your business plan. And then best practices, run your numbers and make sure that it fits your criteria. And once it fits your criteria, you can either say yes to a deal or no to a deal. It's that simple. There's no further deliberation as long as you are sure that you have done your market analysis, you've chosen the right niche, and the numbers support the general locale of where that investment is. And pull the trigger. No one's getting in the way except for yourself. Take action and get it done. You have the power to choose. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed walking through my very first rental deal ever. I'm going to be putting out many more videos about my progress in my real estate journey, but click the subscribe button, click the like button, but leave a comment. Let me know where you are in your real estate investing journey. Maybe I can learn something from you.